When I have ventured off of what I'm used to, I don't trust a man that doesn't have boundaries. And not to say that I need a man to put me in my place, but I want to recklessly trust and respect you. And if you're wavering, I can't trust you. If you're looking for outward validation, I can't trust you. If you're looking to go show your family that I'm the big bad wolf, I don't trust you.
Right.
You know, so if it may not feel good, and I've actually had this conversation before where it's like, look, like if the answer is no, then tell me no and say it from your chest. You know what I'm like, mean it, like really mean it. And I think that a lot of the times what people do is, or what men do is, they don't want to hurt feelings. They don't want to make you upset. They don't want to whatever. Well, that's what leadership is. Leadership does not mean perfection. Sometimes leadership comes with some heat. And I may be cussing you out in my mind out of respect. I would never speak it from my mouth. But in my mind, it really makes me be like, oh, okay, my man knows where he's going. I trust your lead. I'll follow you anywhere.
Welcome back to the channel. You see the information on the screen, so you know what I'm about. So let's get to it. Okay, so here are a few of the comments. And I think most of these are women, but there's one or two men in here. So it's sexy to be able to trust a man who can lead. Wow, serious words that are hardcore truth. She's solid. It was actually a man that said that. If you are with that man, you should listen even when he says it nicely. You'll lose the wrong type of woman when you don't say no, so say it often. I think as women, some of us need to really grow up because we're pushing men and pushing buttons and we don't ever get what we're looking for. A no is a no, whether it's hard or soft. I don't have to push somebody to the boundaries to respect them. Finding something safe to do, ladies. I don't like people playing in my face for their own validation. Golden rule, treat me how you would want to be treated. Now, at this point, I'm probably going to throw up the non-negotiables. And what you see on the screen under the male category is you see one thing called leadership. And that is what the lady led in with, leadership. And one of the things that I'm always telling the men is that you have to lead, right? That is a non-negotiable that women have. So the big issue with most non-negotiables is that they don't have to be perfectly there, right? And that's really important for both men and women to understand. If you in leadership are a 5, but in provider, you're like a 9, and in a protector, you're like an 8, you know, a lot of women are going to be attracted to you. Like if you have an average of 7 out of 10 in most of those categories, you will get a decent amount of people, right? And I want to make sure I say that because that works for both men and women, not to put too much pressure on any one of those things, right? Because I know sometimes pressure doesn't work really well with people, but you still need to be working toward trying to be your best every day. And for those that have been tracking with me for a while, I'm always encouraging men to have rules and regulations that you are going to use not only to govern your life, but also to govern the life of your family, right? And any woman that you bring into your life, okay, is going to be governed by those rules. And I know that there have been people that might, you know, kind of look at me funny sometimes because I tell them when I date women, generally within the second or third week, I start to go into my rules and regulations. And I find that women who are submissive and who are leaning in towards wife energy, they might not be perfectly in wife energy, but they're leaning into that. They love the fact that I have rules and regulations. When I tell them, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that, this is how we do this. As surprising as it is in the world that we live in, with all these, you know, people saying that women don't listen and women this and women that, I find that most women actually do listen. And most women are extremely malleable. Men need to be almost like rocks, solid, you know, bricks, you know what I'm saying, to build a house, right? You know, even Jesus talked about him being the cornerstone. But when it comes to women, most women actually have the ability to kind of sway and flow, right? And even the women that don't quite get that, you know, I would encourage you to look back at Ruth in the Bible. And remember, Ruth was married at one time, okay? And then Ruth's, you know, husband died. And then she went under the leadership of her mother-in-law, i.e. Naomi. Then she went under the leadership of Boaz. See, Ruth was able to ebb and flow. She was actually able to go from one leader to the next leader to the next leader and sit back and kind of melt herself into that new environment. And what I find is that women generally can do this. This is one of women's superpowers, is their ability to be able to ebb and flow, right? But for men, they have to understand that for the woman to feel comfortable, she has to be in an environment of rules and regulations. And when we really think about it from a man's perspective, we also see that even as men, we prefer to be in an environment of rules and regulations. Like I said, when you go to, a football game, you have to go through the metal detectors. You have to do what the, police tell you as you're going up and down the streets. As crazy as it sounds, we really don't want everybody speeding because we understand how dangerous it is. We personally have to go somewhere and we're late, we don't want to see the cop. And if we're the only person speeding out there, going 110 miles an hour and 70, we feel like, okay, we can handle it. And I get that. But most of us would agree we really don't want everybody doing that because that's going to create a dangerous environment, right? A lot of accidents and a lot of unnecessary pain. So no matter what we say, we do all live in situations where we feel most comfortable in areas of rules and regulations. And women, because they ebb and flow, and because they're looking for men to lead them, men cannot be afraid of their rules and regulations that they're going to place upon the woman. The woman has the ability, that is her superpower, that she is able to adapt to almost any environment. And the only women that have a hard time adapting to other environments generally are instinct women. But even with instinct women, it's totally different from an instinct pure woman, when she's almost 100% pure instinct versus just the average instinct woman, okay, who is still going to have either a little bit of thinking energy or a little bit of heart energy. And so it's going to be easier for her to ebb and flow. And even if you're dealing with a high instinct-based woman, if you prove to her that you know how to lead, most of them will lean back and they will take your leadership, right? And this is one of those things that we have to understand. As men, if you don't have a set of rules and regulations, you really need to think about it. And when you're dealing with a woman, and women are going to do this, and there's a lot of videos, because now we're in the era of beating up on people. I mean, a lot of our dating videos have now gone to beating up on one side or the other. But at one point, there was a lot of videos where men were asking the question, why do women push buttons? Why do women ask a lot of questions? Why do women try you? And they used to ask that question all the time. And basically what would happen is you might, say something to a woman, and then what the woman does is she tries you on it. And she'll usually try you at a place where you're either not thinking or you might even be in a weak moment, where you're already angry or frustrated about something. But then she's trying you. And a lot of men didn't like it because they were saying, why do women test men? That's how a lot of people would say it. Why do women test men? But what the reason why women do that is because they're trying to see, is this place safe? Are you doing what you say you're going to do? Are you actually creating an environment based off the rules that you have told me to follow? Right? And when you overthink it and you're not walking in it yourself, it's very easy to get caught up in the place where the woman tests you and then you fail. Right? And this is why men have to do the work beforehand. We are not the type of people that can do it on the fly. Because when we try to do it on the fly, a lot of times we get tested and then we lose the woman. Right? But if you're in that situation and the woman tests you. And even if she leaves you, it's okay if she moves on, decides to date someone else, because the right woman in that environment is going to enjoy that environment. And you cannot be afraid of it, okay? Because if the woman just thinks, for instance, if she tests you and you fail, but then, because she thinks you're attractive, she decides to stay, all that's going to happen is over time, she's going to take control. And you're going to lose control. And she's going to run the relationship. You're not going to run the relationship. It's almost like the lady said in the video. When you're dealing with women, the woman might be cussing you out in her head. Okay, but as long as she doesn't say it out loud, she can do whatever she wants in her head. But she's still in a safe environment, and you're still created what you were supposed to do. Even the Bible talks about this, so don't worry so much about what she does in her head. The Bible talks about it because Jesus, gives a parable. It's a man went to his son, his first son, and he said, hey, I want you to go to the field. And the son said, okay, Father, I'll go, but he did not go. And then he goes to the second son and says, hey, I'll need you to go to the field. And the second son says no, but then later goes. And then Jesus asks, who did the will of the Father? And everybody says the second son. So even though the second son, his information, he said, I ain't going to do this, I'm a blah, 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 he still complied. And then you have this other guy who said all of this other stuff. Oh, yeah, I got you. But then he didn't do anything. And that is the same way when it comes to leading, women. There are going to be women and men out here. And this is what I'm saying. When women test you, they're going to test you. Are you going to do what you say you're going to do? If you say it, but you don't do it, she's going to lose respect for you. It is better for you to say you ain't going to do it and then do it. And then, you see what I'm saying? Then it works out. And for you as a man, it works the same way. That's why I said it kind of works the same. You ask a woman to do something, and you're saying, this is the rule. And she's like, yeah, okay, I'll follow that, but then she doesn't. And there are a lot of women that do that. You will say, okay, I need you to stay within this budget, for the food for the month. And she's like, okay. And then she goes out and spends twice as much. And this is not a mistake. She does this over and over again. Versus a woman who you go to her and say, okay, I need you to stay in this budget, for food for the month. And she's like, I don't think I can do that, because you're making this budget too small. But then you find out she's doing her very best to stay within that budget. Right? But no matter what the situation is, as a man, this is teaching you which women will respect your leadership. And if a woman will not respect your leadership, if she's not respecting your rules and regulations, you need to let her go. Don't try to hold on to her because she will attempt to control you. Remember, that's the curse. That women will attempt to control their husbands. Right? And when you see these relationships where women are in control of their husbands, it generally doesn't work as well. I'm not to say that some women aren't smart enough to handle it and different things like that. But what I'm saying is in general, right? And it's the same thing, when you're dealing with the opposite side. You're trying to find as a man the best woman possible for you. And it's not always, like I say, just about how pretty she is. You really have to think about how kind she is. And in this particular case, how supportive she is. Because if she's not supportive, you don't want her. And like I said, you have certain types that, like I say, struggle with certain things, right? But every single person can get better. Every single person can go against what they're fighting against. I mean, that's what we all have to do. We are in one place, right? And like I said, God loves us, and he sees the core, but he also sees our potential. And he wants us to grow. And the Bible talks about that. Renewing of the mind, getting better, every single day. And that should be a part of what you want out here, because that's going to help you to get the best person. But again, just to sum all this up, remember, guys, do not be afraid to tell a woman no. Do not be afraid to say you can't have it. I'm not doing that. Okay? Because women respect that, and then they actually are attracted to that. It's not necessarily the whole concept of you saying no. What the concept is, you're standing on what you say you believe. That's what they're attracted to. Like I've always said, you all need to move with like Jesus, be that servant leader. Okay. But don't be afraid to lead. And like I know for me, I tell women straight up what I want, how I want them to handle it. And if they don't, start to line up, like I say, in those rules and in wife energy, they're gone. I'm not, playing games with them. They're gone. And, a lot of people don't get that because they're so hungry for a relationship. But like I said, there's a huge difference between walking in husband energy, which is I'm looking for a wife, or walking in boyfriend energy, which is any girl hanging around will do. Anyway, there's a lot of information down there in that description. Go check that out. Please like, please subscribe, and I'm going to see you all in the very next video.